then you know what? They need to join the fireside.
I know they need to come chill out a bit.
Take a sip of whiskey and talk about some toy soldiers.
Are you're lying. You're not on the whiskey already. No way.
No, it's too early.
It's too early for me. I got some orange juice.
Okay, welcome back everyone to 40k Fireside. We're on episode number 15 here. We're running through them really quickly, and today we're going to be talking about a tournament called the International Team Tournament, which is running for its second year. It's one of the UKTC events, and this year it's grown really, really big. So we're going to be spending most of our time talking about that. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Just going to run through a couple of things that we've done. So we came back from LVO, we recorded a couple of episodes. If you haven't seen that one was quite a popular one. We then did an episode on Arcs of Omen, and we've recently just done one with Boris Michev, who's one of the best players in the UK. He's the owner of Bad Moon Cafe in London, and it was a really, really interesting chat. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. And I'm joined today with Dave. Dave, my best friend in 40k, David Gaylord.
It should be a big surprise, right? I'm the co-host. Joined today in tandem. That's the only way we come. Joined to the hip. No, it's good to be here. I'm excited to talk. Vic and I have just had busy days at work, so we're actually recording this one just after work. I rushed home and got a nice glass of orange juice as opposed to a whiskey here. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the International Team Tournament coming up, and I guess, adjacent to that, we'll also discuss the meta, of course, because how can you not do that? So it will be a team meta focus, and this team tournament is instantly sold out compared to last year. Mm-hmm. I think the same number of teams, it's like 60 teams or 62 teams, something like that. No, 64 teams.
64.
Yeah, and the next team tournament is like 500 people or something, so even bigger. So team tournaments obviously becoming a bit of a trend in the UK, which I think is really good because it's quite singles orientated. And on a side note, before we even get into a discussion, I think it's an interesting dynamic with the ITC ranking and potentially that becoming less and less relevant, I think, which I think may be healthy, and maybe there's some room for some different player ranking situations going on there as well. But that'll be a whole another episode, I think.
Definitely. And we're particularly excited about this one because not only are we going to be attending with a team of players from Dice Down, but we also, this is going to be our first event of this season. So I think me and Dave have had a good rest. We're really excited to play some 40k. We've got lots of practice in with the armies that we're bringing. And we're definitely going to be running through the armies that we're going to be running. But the format of the show, we're going to start off by talking about the event in the next section. And then we're going to be running through some of the top teams in attendance, and then we're going to be running through our team and what we're bringing.
Yeah, sounds good. Probably some brief jazz music, and we'll catch you guys in the next part.
We should just keep you humming in the middle.
Or I could do some elevated music, so boom da but.
Why are you so good at that?
I played jazz for I played drums for 15 years, man. I played jazz in San Francisco a lot.
And welcome back, everyone. Part 2. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the ITT, the International Team Tournament. I want to give some relevance to this event because it's a little bit different to most team events. And if you're listening to this and you're kind of like me, I almost disregard team events sometimes when I look at the results. But in this case, there's a few differences. One is it's a 5-man team. And the second one is it's fixed terrain and it's all UKTC terrain. This means that actually there's going to be a lot of relevance to singles here. It's almost like 5 singles games are happening per team rather than what usually happens in team events. So I would definitely pay attention to this event, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of lists people have brought, because I don't think they're going to be quite as skewed as what we're used to in team events.
Yeah, it's an interesting blend between the two, isn't it? Because I think the terrain definitely lends itself to the singles environment, because typically, guys, in UK WTC, you have a light table and a dense table. And one of the, I think, common strategies is that you might have a gunline army, and if you get the first table pick, you put your gunline army down, and then you go, I'm going to pick the light table. And your opponent then maybe goes, all right, I'm going to put a gunline down and try and roll off, or maybe a defender to just hide and score points. So there's actually none of that. So in theory, and I think Pumba alluded to this as well, although we'll see the lists when we see them, that well-rounded list should perform a little bit better on the UKTC terrain because there's no differentiation between light and dense. Everyone plays on the same density of tables, albeit one map change has been made. But look, if we've got time, we'll go into that later as well. Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. And we're going to be mainly focusing on lists here. We will come back after the event and go through kind of how we got on. But just to give an idea of our baseline, which is going to be the armies that we brought. I don't know if you want to go through what the Dice Down team is and their factions is, Dave?
Yeah, so I'm captain for the Dice Down team, and we are bringing myself. I'm playing a guard, Astra Militarum Vik Aeldari. I've been having a lot of fun playing them. Vik is playing... He's playing Craft Worlds, mixed Craft Worlds and Harlequins in a really strong list. Potentially one of the strongest in the game, I think. It's very, very powerful, especially in the right hands. And then we've got Boris, if you listen to the previous episode, bringing us World Eaters. We've got Brian Seep, who's joining our team, joining our team for this event, filling in for us. We were tossing up between him playing Orcs or Iron Hands, but eventually we landed on Iron Hands, for reasons we can maybe go into later. Or actually, after the event, perhaps we can talk about that, because we'll really know where it shone. And then we've got Jim playing Drakari on a bit of a defender list, and Jim is a great player in Dice Down as well, one of our great friends. Yeah, so those are the 4 lists we're taking. It's a little bit different from some of the teams, and I think, Vik, you definitely stand out in your list, because I don't think many of the top teams are playing that as well, right?
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a juicy pick on my end, just to mix things up, get what did you call it? A wild ball? A wild card?
A swing, a wild card, yeah.
I'm the wild card list, which people won't know how to deal with. But
so what is the list? Because I'm intrigued at this point.
Are you? Okay, sure. So yeah, I mean... Eldar is my kind of favorite faction. It's where I kind of started with everything, and a lot of people know me from me playing Eldar and going through Hail of Doom and everything like that, being a bit innovative with Eldar. And this is a really interesting period of time because I think the Eldar kind of armies are so incredibly varied at the moment, and lots of different people's ideas are working well. I haven't seen anyone else doing exactly what I've kind of been doing. A lot of people have been going down the Ultway route, and this is a very similar concept. So my army is basically Ultway that ignores cover. That's how I've kind of described it. So I've gone for Expert Crafters, which allows me to have 1 free wound reroll, which is what Ultway has as well. But I've also gone for Masterful Shots as my second custom trait, which allows me to ignore cover. And then the army is a souped army, so it's Aeldari rather than just Craft Worlds. I've got a Harlequins detachment in here. So my Arcs of Omen detachment, the Craft Worlds one, has Baharoth as my warlord, and then I've got a Farseer Skyrunner with Executioner and Fateful Divergence. Now, this Farseer is my only Farseer in the list, so I don't have Guide or Doom in the list. I then have the Carnossus Bow on him, so the Mortal Wound pistol, and the Warlord trait to do an additional Mortal Wound on a 6 to wound. So it's the old Hail of Doom Mortal Wound Farseer, but not quite as good in this, but the reroll to wound does kind of become relevant.
Helps you. Yeah.
Got 5 Rangers, a unit of 6 Dire Avengers, and then we've got a few more Psychics. We've got a Warlock Skyrunner with Protect and Jinx. We've got 2 Foot Warlocks with Quicken and Restrain. We've got 5 Striking Scorpions with the usual Biting Blade and Crushing Blows. We've got 2 units of Shroud Runners, who are amazing. We've got 1 unit of just a single Viper on its own. And then we've got a few D-Cannons. So we've got a unit of 3 D-Cannons and 2 single D-Cannons. And then finally, we've got a Night Spinner with a Shuriken Cannon and a Crystal Targeting Matrix. We've then got the Harlequins detachment. I've got no Troop Master, so this is so weird. So many choices other people aren't making. I've got no Troop Master. I've just got a Shadow Seer with Mirror of Minds and Twilight Pathways. And then I've got 2 units of 5 troops with 4 weapons in there. I've got 1 unit of 5 troops on its own, and I've got the Death Jester with the Favor of Segorak, which turns 1 dice into a 6, and Harvester of Torment, which allows any 6s to hit to be 3 additional hits. Finally finished off with 2 Star Weavers, and this Harlequins detachment is a Twilight detachment, so that's the extra attack and the 6-inch, the plus 2 inches to consolidate and pile in moves.
Yeah. So just to visualize this, in the Harlequins detachment, 3 units of 5, 2 boats, 1 Shadow Seer, and 1 DJ with the big gun, right?
You got it. Yeah, that's
awesome.
it.
And then on the firing side, your kind of big threats are the Night Spinner, which is very relevant indirect, especially in this meta, particularly into Guard and particularly into Marines at -2 damage to. And then you've split out the D cannons because you get more wound rolls, right?
Yeah, more wound rerolls in this list.
And then in addition to that, the D cannons also character protect, right? Because technically they're vehicles, right?
Correct. Yeah. So there's
which is super handy. Yeah.
little tech choices.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think the list is super powerful. It's really flexible and versatile, and I think kind of what shows in the Aeldari Codex is just how versatile and kind of deep the Codex is, and the viability of lots of different units in the meta. Because I don't think a lot of people would have called, after all the big changes in the game, actually that being a really, really top and powerful list, right? I think it took me by surprise, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a number of practice games now with it, and I've won all my practice games, and every single game this list has surprised me. I think it's very demanding on player skill. You don't have very much tolerance for mistakes, and every unit has to be doing the correct thing to actually make the list work. But when it does all synergize correctly, I think it's extremely powerful and very difficult to actually deal with.
Yeah. But it's got a lot of speed to it as well, right? Which kind of enables you to pick your targets a lot better in a meta which I think has gotten a lot slower in a lot of ways, yeah?
Yeah, and I think the versatility is going to be useful for us as a team, because not only could I attack and be quite aggressive and try and actually remove someone off the board, the damage output does actually add up more than it appears.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a very significant passive game plan in there. And you can even see that with the tech choice of having the Shadow Seer rather than the Troop Master. That second character who could do Twilight Pathways and kind of do an action, spend a CP and jump himself back, just gives backup plans if things go a little bit wrong.
Yeah, it's got redundancy in there, which is great too. I guess when you said there are a lot of different variants of Aeldari lists coming out, kind of reminded me a lot of what the Guard situation is, because I don't think anyone really knows what the Guard list is right now. We haven't had any big tournaments, and I know we had some tournaments in the US where Guard placed really highly, but as I mentioned in our team chat before we actually saw the terrain, I wouldn't be surprised if those were a gigantic bowling alley terrain.
And they were.
and they were, right? Like, oh, maybe that's akin to a tournament we played last month in Las Vegas.
I mean, I think your story with your development of your Guard list is super interesting, because it's changed so much since how we, like when we played our practice game. Your list is completely different now to how it was, so maybe you can tell us where we've ended up at.
Yeah, so I think my philosophy with going into the Guard Codex is where I hadn't played it at all. Like Tyranids I had previously played, so you kind of, albeit it's a new codex, you kind of understand how the army functions or what the big centerpiece units are, and the diversity, I think, of the list should be, right? However, with Guard, I didn't really know anything, so my philosophy going into it was, let's just look at like data sheets and then try and mash things together. Things that, I mean, we all know some stuff is good, like 10 Cassican with Barbican's Key and Finial. Like, great. 3 groups of 3 mortars with Finial. Okay, it doesn't take a genius to work out. Okay, that's a good thing. So, there were some core elements to Guard, which I think are the Finial Command Squad, Leontis, and 3 units of 3 mortars. I would say, and at least 1 unit of 10 Cassican with the Barbican Key. You don't want to play any list that doesn't have that. But around that, I think I started initially with, I think maybe 7 Lehman Russes or 8 Lehman Russes, and I played that. And what I knew from that was that I could eventually just subtract Lehman Russes from the list and add in utility, right? Because a Lehman Russ is a big centerpiece that supposedly has good output, although opinions of that have changed. But you can substitute a Lehman Russ for 3 units of shock troops, or 3 units of just chaff infantry, which can play the game, of course. Or you could substitute it for maybe some armored sentinels and a forward deploy like this. It's very like swap in and swap out modular when you work from that perspective. So I won't bore you guys through all of the games. Vic crushed me in a game on the new corner deployment, which my army basically could not function in. I think that was with 6 Lehman Russes. And then basically what happened, guys, is piece by piece I keep subtracting out Lehman Russes and in favor for broadly speaking, a lot more utility to play the game, and a lot more speed and maneuverability to play the game, and add a lot more dynamism into the game plan. Initially, I thought, well, Lehman Russes with the free outflank will be very strong because you can have a 180-point tank coming in. However, I also found out that they sometimes struggle to really activate and have very, very inconsistent damage outputs when they're not ordered or you don't have the CP to fuel them as well. So, with that, I guess I'll continue the monologue and
yeah, go for it.
I'll go through the list. So, I'm pretty happy with the list I've played, but I'll tell you a change after I would like to make if I can find the points. So, my list is Leontis, who you always want to include, and he has to take the Warlord trait for 5 up, gain a CP when you spend a CP, which in Guard is quite good, albeit in general I'm not a big fan of these relics, but it's his Warlord traits, but that's his only Warlord trait he can take, and you have to take it, so you might as well at that point. Then I've got Ursula Creed. She can't take a Warlord trait or a relic because of the way the stratagems work now. But what she does is allow you to give basically 2 random orders to 2 of your mortar squads, and then do take aim on the mortar squad. It gives all 3 of them +1 strength, and then they all get take aim from the splash. So your mortars are strength 6, -1, damage 1. And strength 6, damage 1, -1 is quite good because it puts you at a breakpoint of basically +1 to wound against many common targets you're going to want to hit. So things that you maybe wouldn't think, like land speeders are very good to be strength 6 against because you're wounding on 4s, rolling 1s. Star Weavers are really good to be wounding on 6, to be strength 6 against. Demons are quite good to be strength 6 against. It's basically +1 to wound against a lot of data sheets, which leads Ursula Creed to give you a lot of value there. And then probably I don't want to say the jankiest, but the most bizarre HQ choice I think has came out in quite a while of 40k, not just Guard Codex, the Cadia Command Squad. And the reason this is strange is because you also take the Bodyguard, who is an Ogre Bodyguard. Now, the way this squad functions, guys, is that the Cadia Command Squad gains the keyword, the entire unit gains the keyword of any individual keywords in the unit whilst it has that that model in the unit, right? This is as per my understanding, but this is in the core rules now. So everyone in the unit gains the Ogren keyword. Everyone in the unit gains the character keyword. So it's a character unit, which is already kind of bizarre. Now the Ogren is really important because you can use a stratagem to revive him. So you can revive up to D3 models if your medic is alive. Now this sounds very strong, but most of the time, I don't actually think in like the maybe 8 or 9 games I've played, it's actually ever come up. Most people kind of tag them in melee, which you can't then subsequently revive. But the Ogren is extremely tanky because he has a 2-up base save and a 5-up feel no pain, and he's -1 damage. So a 65-point model there that is brutally difficult to kill. Like, I've seen a ton of people try and go into this guy, and every time they absolutely fail. So he's great. He also increases the squad size, so your finial can reach out further into your army. Then we've got, other than that, the other guys basically are just a Voxcaster and then a medic, which gives you the 5-up feel no pain for your army. So it's a very versatile unit. It's got access to another stratagem, which when you charge someone, Thunderous Impact, you deal mortal wounds when you meet or exceed their toughness for each model and engagement range. Now, normally this would be limited to Ogre and Bodyguard units, which kind of are 3 to 5 model sizes, but because every model in your unit gains the Ogre keyword, you can actually use that stratagem with your Cadia command squads. So it's quite tricksy. It's a very flexible unit, but yeah, it's hard to take through. The army probably wouldn't really function if you didn't have this command squad unit in it. But yeah, we can get down into that later as well. Then I've got 4 units of Cadia shock troops. Now these are just the regular infantry guard. I'm running 2 with 2 special. Everyone has 2 special weapons, which is the plasma gun, which is absolutely fantastic, and the rest of them just have the flashlights, the las guns, which are just 24-inch range, rapid fire 1, strength 3, 0, 1. Now these guys are actually really good, and the reason they're really good is actually they have a damage profile, which is something your army really lacks. Like, when you run Lehman Russes with plasma guns, what you really lack is a high volume of flyer squad. Now, this 65-point squad, let's say you have no buffs, this 65-pointer squad can get take aim, which means that you have +1 to hit and +1 AP. So now they're hitting on 3s, and then the Leontis will give them reroll 1s to hit and wound, because they're a core unit, which is amazing. And then they have exploding 6s on the little las guns, and so your 6s explode and auto wound. So for a 65-point squad, you can get, roughly 18 rapid fire shots, and then if you're in rapid fire range as a plasma, you get 4 plasma shots, which auto wound on 6s as well. So, and will be AP4 damage too. So for a 65-point squad that plays the objective, they're really versatile. They will order so you can move faster, jump out of a transport, remain stationary or something like that. Really awesome. Then I've got obviously 20 Kassakin. Now these guys are phenomenal, of course. However, what I will say is that in the higher player skill games, seldom does your opponent really let you get a great Kassakin bomb off. You really have to work, and sometimes I find your game plan is trying to just enable the Kassakin bomb. Other than that, if you can't really get one off, they kind of become a bit of a static piece. Then I've got 3 Lehman Russes. I've got one kitted out with, they all have the Executioner Plasma Cannon, which is the best turret weapon. Then one of them has the double plasma sponsons, and then the rest of them have 3 flamers along with their plasma cannon. Now, you want the flamers because they break you out of combat, make them harder to charge, and realistically speaking, the rest of your shooting is very inconsistent already, so if you do get taken up in combat, you want to be able to flame with some consistency. I've got a Chimera in addition to that with all flamers, and then I've got 3x3 mortar squads. So yeah, that's basically it. It has 2 really good secondaries, which are the guard ones, which are Inflexible Command, which is in all seriousness an auto 15. You just need to play the game. And then it's also got Boots on the Ground, which you need to have infantry units within the different table quarters. Oh, but I can't forget my one.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you've definitely forgot the key ingredient.
So there is one really fun character that I've just had such a blast playing. His name is Mr. Slime Arbo, Cheeky Slime Arbo. He is so much fun to play, guys. He's 50 points. He's got a 3-shot pistol that can snipe characters, and then he can teleport up once per game, and then at the end of the fight phase, which is really bizarre, and then he can come back down and get reroll charges. He scores you Boots on the Ground. He's super fun. I don't know if he's necessarily the correct pick, because you could play a Commissar, which could then disembark from a transport and order. So there's a nice trick you can do. You can move your Cadia troops. You can let's say you can auto advance them 6 inches, so they move 12, and then you can jump out your Commissar from the transport, and they get to order when they disembark from the transport, which is the only time you will ever get a non-command phase order. And so they can move automatically 6, and then you can order them for remain stationary, and then you just blast people with a lot of shots like that. It's a nice kind of tool piece to have. So that's the kind of maybe change I would make. But Slime Arbo, I don't know, he's so good, man.
He's awesome. He's
just the loner. He goes off and does his own thing and gets me points. But yeah, I think it's very. I think so I totally forgot. I've 2 units of 3 armored sentinels, and then I have 1 scout sentinel. The sentinels are very good because they benefit from the finial. You can give them 4 rolls to hit and wound from Leontis. So they're just basically, I don't think you want to run mono Russes, because sentinels are cheaper and offer a large amount of variance compared to your Lehman Russ. So you want to have some kind of dynamic play there as well.
Yeah, this is awesome, and I think your list is one of our power lists. It's one of the strong lists that does have the potential to maybe blow out people.
Yep.
And then across our team, we've got Brian with the Iron Hands, which can also blow out people.
Yep.
Boris can really get a big win with the World Eaters. People aren't prepared for that one. And
Go
then
first, smash people.
Me and Jim with the little take all comers kind of techie Eldar list. So we've got a nice balance to the team, I think.
Yeah. And more importantly, an absolutely great bunch of people. I think I've said previously on the Stat Check podcast, I think if we were looking at the teams, and I guess let's just say now the other teams, the other kind of top teams that are in attendance, we've got ourselves, but realistically quite a bit higher and more serious than us, Team England, and world-renowned Team Poland as well, who are team tournament fanatics. And then we've also got Team Netherlands as well, who are great, obviously European team-focused players coming to play. Which, by the way, I would just say it's great to have these teams come across to the UK and play. I think that's really awesome. And then in addition, we've got Vanguard Tactics, we've got War Masters, and we've also got, in addition to that, I'm forgetting someone.
I can't think of anyone else. There's a few other really good teams with a few good players in each team kind of thing. Scattered, obviously, it's a huge tournament, so we're gonna have a bit of that. Interestingly, obviously, we're not going into this as favorites. I don't think realistically we have the level of practice in team tournaments. But this is a weird team tournament. We are a bunch of singles players, and this is almost like a singles team tournament. So you never know. I would like to give a shout out now to a podcast run by Zach, who's the tournament organizer for the UKTC events. He has started a podcast series called What's Happening in 40K, and in the latest episode, one of the Dice Down members, George, who is a bookie, he went on and he gave some odds for all the teams and kind of to get people a bit interested and see who they think might win. But Team Poland came out at the top of that one, so possibly that's correct. It probably would be my favorite as well.
Yeah, they really focus on playing the team environment much better than us, and they live and breathe the stuff, so they should be the ones to win it. But we're going to be the underdogs.
We are going to be the underdogs,
so
and that's
got
great.
Everything to prove.
Nothing to lose, everything to gain. So
awesome.
I wanted to maybe jump on to looking through some of these other top teams. I mean, I think you've talked for ages, and I'll let you cover Team Poland, but maybe I can go for my national team. I can go for Team England and
good.
Go through their structure, go through their lists, and because I think people will be really interested in this. These are high level of kind of team skill teams. And this Team England team is brutal. It's really strong. So
awesome. So what I will do is we'll come back after the break.
Let's do some jazz music.
And it's only going to be lists and meta talk after we get back on the 40K Fireside podcast. Team England, Team Poland, and a couple of other fancy lists that we like the look of to review in the next part.
Guys, welcome back to the next part. We are here chatting about some of the top teams in attendance. Let's start off with Team England. So Team England have got their captain as Robbo, so Matt Robertson. He is has a huge amount of experience in the ETC, WTC, and he's running Leagues of Votan. We've got Manny Chima on Dark Angels. We've got Josh Roberts, who's the joint captain of Team England. He's the playing captain of Team England, who's on Adeptus Custodes. We've got Alex Harrison on Chaos Demons, and we've got a new member of Team England, Chris Kinnair, on Necrons. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and they've, Manny and Josh have both played and won tournaments since the start of this season with their respective factions. So Manny recently won the Bournemouth Major with Dark Angels, and Josh Roberts recently won a GT with Custodes, running a very similar list to what Liam Hackett ran in Australia to win a major. And then you've got Chris Kinnair, who's again playing a list he's very experienced with. He's been playing Necrons and consistently doing well across the last season. And then Robbo has also played Leagues of Votan across multiple team tournaments, and he's still taking them to this one.
And then you've got Alex Harrison playing.
Alex Harrison. I'm going to start off with his list. So Alex has gone for kind of the wild card pick. So this is their wild card pick, and he's playing Tzeentch demons, pure demons, and he's got like the skew list. So this is a skew for teams, which is really interesting to see.
I did call this in our team chat.
How did you know this was going to happen? This is super interesting. So
because in the online communities, I had seen this list pop up. And I thought, this is just the type of random skew list that some team would bring. So,
So this list is just running just as many kind of flamery shooting things as possible. It's got 3 Burning Chariots, 3 Exalted Flamers, 3 units of Flamers who now have to roll to hit, but still Flamers, so 665 on those. 3 units of 4 Screamers, and he's got loads of Mortal Wounds in a Lord of Change, Fate Skimmer, and a Demon Prince. Simple concept.
Simple concept because it gets 3-up invulnerables against shooting, right?
And you get that into the right pairing, it can be very difficult for people to deal with it.
Yeah, this is an interesting list. I don't know if it actually wins against shooting lists per se, because the output is actually quite... I wouldn't say that the output is high, and it does give up secondaries. Exalted Flamers are characters, so you're essentially running close to 6 characters, which can hamstring you sometimes. The one thing I would say, like a Gladiator Reaper is perfectly primed against this list, right? 40 shots, comes in, but on the other hand, perhaps melters and more heavy firepower oriented lists are not very good against it. So it's definitely an interesting one to play against. It's obviously got the backing of being a bit of a curveball list, right?
And I think people would not have practiced against this, and there's every chance that you only work out how to beat this after you've already lost to it. So it'll be really interesting to see how Alex does across this weekend. Obviously, he's like a phenomenally talented player, so player skill might just push him through any challenges that he has, and he's also a very experienced teams player. So there's a very good podcast, Stat Check. They do a series called Enter the Matrix, where they interview a lot of the captains of different national teams, and Josh Roberts was on that, and he was talking about how Alex Harrison is incredibly good in teams, because if you tell him something to do, he will just go and do it. And he has a bit of a reputation in singles, but he doesn't carry that reputation across to his team results. So it'll be very interesting to see how he does. And next list, maybe I can go through Josh's one, because I think this is an absolute powerhouse in the meta, this list concept. And again, it comes from Australia. I don't know how these guys just seem to make all these meta-defining kind of creative ideas.
I don't think we would have come up with this list in the UK, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think we would have.
100%. This is like looking through a codex and just working out a combo which just works very well against a wide variety of armies. This is a proper singles tournament winning kind of list.
I will be surprised if this list continues to be good, because I think it's a bit solvable. I think that there are some tricks there which probably win you a lot of games once, but I don't see it becoming dominant, despite the faction being very popular and very easy to pick up, very easy to purchase and put on the table as well.
So the way this list is built is it's built with 2 units of 10 wardens, which is the bulk of the list. So each of these units is 500 points of 3 wound, 2 up armor save, 4 up invuln guys with 6 up feel no pains. And importantly, they've gained back their stratagems, which they can use now as many times as they want to have transhuman and turn off all rerolls. So that's extremely powerful. And that's basically how you keep these guys alive. Now, obviously, there are certain profiles of weapons which work very well into them, regardless of not being able to reroll and only wounding on 4s. But it'll be interesting to see just how the meta adapts, like how Dave said.
And so what actually makes these 10 units of wardens, custodies, by the way, if you guys went away, what actually makes them work? Because why haven't people done this before? Kind of, how does the army actually function?
Yeah, so the armies run in a shield host called Solar Watch. So we were used to Emperor's Chosen. This one is Solar Watch. That allows them to advance and charge. And I think the Qatar allows them to maybe fall back and charge, something like that. Yes. So super fast wardens, basically.
And they get 2d6 to advance for 1 turn, I think, right? You can make it so you have 2d6 to advance and you pick one of the highest dice.
So the technical side of this list is how the Qatars interact. They're extremely flexible, and they allow you to do things like fallback charge, advance on 2d6, advance and do actions. And importantly, in this list, they allow you to prevent fallback as well. And that's probably the game-winning moment where, say, you kill 1 unit of wardens and the second unit of wardens gets into you, tags multiple units, prevents you from falling back, and then you don't have enough time to get through the second unit of wardens before you've lost the game. Yeah. And I think that's the crutch point, and it's whether people work out that's the thing you have to avoid.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said before, I think once people work that out, that's the type of thing you lose to maybe once or twice, and then it becomes a little bit like, okay, I've got playing against this army, I've got these very direct rules that I must obey, and that's what I focus on, and the game will play itself out naturally.
And the thing which might make this list become easier to deal with is that the next list, Mani Chima's list, the Dark Angels list, has a certain type of profile in the army which people will begin to tech for, and that immediately allows you to tech for the Custodes Wardens. Mani's list is Dark Angels. He's been doing very well with it, arguably, and I think most of us are agreeing that this is probably the strongest archetype in the game.
It feels like it, albeit there is a grain of salt with everything we've talked about, especially today, is that there have really been no big events where a lot of the top players have clashed. And I think this is why, when you said in the beginning of the podcast, it's really interesting, because you'll be able to actually go through, despite it being a team tournament, you will be able to go through and look like when this player clashed this player, this was the kind of result, because everyone will be playing in a team environment. Everyone will be scrapping for points, so it should be a very good indicator of kind of the relative placing of all the armies and how they perform against one another. Whereas I think previous tournaments to date haven't had that density of players interacting at the highest levels.
If anyone reads Manny's list, I can't think of a list that looks more like a Manny list than this.
No,
almost.
I got it.
It's so funny.
I got it. No, there's one more. I've got it.
Have you got another one? Is there more?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, Manny's list just goes 10 Deathwing Terminators, 10 Deathwing Terminators, 10 Deathwing Terminators, Landspeeder Tornado, Landspeeder Tornado, Landspeeder Tornado, Landspeeder Vengeance, Landspeeder Vengeance, Landspeeder Vengeance, Talon Master, Talon Master. He's so funny, really. This is amazing. So, yeah, 30 Terminators, 6 Landspeeders, 2 Talon Masters, and a few other support characters. Extremely powerful list that plays secondary really well, high output, extremely high speed, extremely significant alpha strike. And very durable. Basically ticks all the boxes for a successful list. So
yeah, exactly. Kind of point and click in some regards as well. You can combat squad the Terminators, which means you get 6 squads of 5 Terminators as well, which is kind of difficult to shift.
Absolutely. You've got Chris Kinnair then holding the base of this team together just by being a high scoring Necrons list.
Yep.
And then
pretty much an all rounder, right? All-comer. You can throw them under the bus. You can score points, keep a game tight.
Throw him into anything, and Chris will know what to do to deal with that. And then you've got Robbo and Leagues of Votan. Now, Leagues of Votan has split the community.
This is an interesting one. Yeah.
Some people hate it, some people love it. Me and Dave are not big fans of Votan in terms of we both think they're relatively weak. I think,
yeah, I would say relatively weak. But team tournament, obviously, you get to manipulate the pairings somewhat. So I was chatting with someone that said actually the reduction of mortal wounds in the meta is definitely a big bonus for Votan, which I didn't consider, but is definitely a good point, right?
Yeah, I guess less mortal wounds, more melter guns. It's a bit of a trade-off, isn't it? And
there's still a lot of melter out there, guys. Like, some armies can just look at a land fortress and boom, it's dead.
But you also just can't take a light board for Leagues of Votan, and Leagues of Votan are practically unbeatable on a very, very light board. It's really tough. But we don't have such a thing here, so yeah, let's see. Robbo's obviously, when I hear people talk about the best players in the UK, Robbo always comes up.
Yep. And he's playing 18 bikes and 2 land fortresses? Or
3 land fortresses.
3 land fortress, 18 bikes. Let's go. No troops. 0 troop allocation in the Arc of Omen one.
Some people just won't be able to deal with that, so
yeah. I mean, the alpha strike potential on that list is huge. Bikes pre-game move, can shoot everything. They have great shooting as well. So you can get caught off guard pretty quick with that list.
Absolutely. And it wouldn't surprise me if Team England do win the event. They obviously know exactly what they're doing, and they're going to be very well prepared for this one. So, we'll see. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, they've definitely got some great lists and great players as well, of course. Although notably no guard in their
that's bizarre, isn't it?
List. So I heard they perhaps couldn't get the models together, which is a bit of a shame. But good for them to test out some other lists as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go on to Team Poland, who I know Pumba told me we are going to bloody win it. So they are bringing they're holding no punches here. So I think this is actually the list I was going to reference from Manny list, but Talon Master, Ravenwing Talon Master,
okay,
Ravenwing Talon Master. Actually, it's got Azrael and Primaris Chaplain on bike, which I really like. The Primaris Chaplain on bike, I'll go into that.
Mm-hmm.
1 unit of Infiltrators, Ravenwing Apothecary, and then it's got Ravenwing Black Knights, 10 Black Knights, 10. Then it's got 8 Black Knights, 4 Servitors, and it's got 3 attack bikes, speeder. So I guess it's gone the opposite direction where it's a bit more well-rounded.
This isn't Manny's. This is too. There's too many different units in here.
Too many data sheets in there. So this is taking the different approach, right? He's gone for the Ravenwing Black Knights, which are certainly very popular. He obviously believes in them. You get the Plasma Talon and the Corvus Hammer on all of them now, which is pretty awesome. They're very fast, and they can really punish lists that don't have a very tight deployment footprint. He's even gone for the attack bikes, which just have multi-melters. Obviously everyone is, all marine variants are basically playing the land speed or tornado. That thing is basically designed to kill guard, because it's got the assault cannon, which shoots through your troops, and the multi-melter as well. So this is an interesting list. The Primaris Chaplain on bike, he is Master of Sanctity, he's got Wise Orator and the Benediction of Fury. And one thing I didn't know, actually Ravenwing has almost the most busted stratagems in the game. Vic, they have a stratagem where you can go into combat, attack, and even if you're still in combat, you can make a normal move.
Yeah.
So it's like
classic.
Overrun, but way better.
You know, Eldar used to have that as well back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, really powerful stuff. And I know they have a couple of others, but I'm not going to embarrass myself any further.
I'm just noticing, is a Black Knight only 30 points? What
30
the hell?
points. Yes. And they have a 4-up
outrageous.
invulnerable, right? When they
Yeah,
advance.
if they advance, yeah.
Well, you always advance them, right? Because they counter stationary, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea. I'm just ready to be tabled by this.
Assaults. But yeah, a lot of pressure. Epoch Theory can resurrect Black Knights, I take it. And he's got 4 servitors there, which is interesting. Probably just to hold the backfield. Or maybe do R&D. Might be an option for R&D, but it's 4 servitors. So yeah, it's interesting. Infiltrator squad makes him a bit more well-rounded against the drop pod or anything coming from reserve. So I like that. I do like the 5 infiltrators. I think if you're not playing, for example, let's compare Manny and Pumbaa's list.
Mm-hmm.
Manny doesn't have infiltrators, right?
He did have a unit of Incurse. Oh no, he doesn't. He's just gone.
So no forward deploy, and I think forward
none.
deploy actually for me is quite critical in the meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
Having 1 forward deploy, if you get the first turn drop, to block their forward deploy, assuming you're playing against Marines, because in my opinion these things are quite hard to shift. And if they forward deploy, if Marines forward deploy and go first, they count as OPSEC on that objective. They move everything in there. It's basically a castle you'll never touch, which can actually really warp the way that the game needs to play out. And all of a sudden, they become a super passive army that's just got like a really good staging point. So that's what worries me.
Fair play. Powerful list from Pumbaa there.
Definitely. Team captain, of course.
Oh, yep.
Then we've got Michael, who is playing guard. Now, prior to this, we were on stat check with Pumbaa, and Pumbaa said, I think it's better to bring well-rounded lists. However, this is not well-rounded. If you were talking about my list that I played when I first started playing guard, this is basically
That's this one. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had some incarnation of exactly this list. So this list is obviously Born Soldiers, which everyone will play if you come meet a guard player. 6 is to wound, automatically wound. 2, he's got the Cadian command squad with no Ogren, which is interesting.
Wow.
Although he's got
just a backfield one.
Yeah. Although, okay, which is interesting. I think the Ogren is great value. 2 tank commanders, which is also interesting. He's got the Relic Gatekeeper, which is just the 1 CP for a bigger gun. He starts on 2 CP, whereas I start on 3 on my list. The Gatekeeper is good into certain things. So in a team environment, I can see that being good. Then he's got 3 units of Kassakin. Obviously, one has the Barbican key. He has gone with the Barbican key on the no penalty for moving and shooting, and +1 strength in close combat, brutal strength, which is an absolutely bizarre choice to put your Barbican key on, if I'm being honest, because the other 2 units are Heirloom Weapons, which is 4 inches of range, or Veteran Guerrillas, which is ignore cover inside of 18. And you would think with your Barbican Key squad, you want to put that on either range or ignore cover. Personally, I think I'm the only one doing it, running it on the range squad, so you can rapid fire from 14 inches, which means that you can't be all spec scanned.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Wait, I have to make a comment about... Sure. So, I have a lot of respect for Team Poland, but a trend I've noticed in their lists is that they make the most incredible lists, and they choose one thing to drop off from being optimized every time.
Yeah.
And this is kind of an example of that. I'm sure they have a reason and they can explain it to you. Yeah. But I swear, every time they try to explain something like this, I always disagree with them. And that's just my criticism for Team Poland sometimes.
Yeah, which is bizarre. I don't think... I've never played against Mikhail or Michael. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I've never played against them before, but that strikes me as just a straight up... a bit of a blunder, if I'm being honest. Maybe there's something... good, because you get, so for example, you do get no penalty for moving and shooting. You get the hotshot marksman rifle, right? So that is a heavy weapon, but your finial lets you ignore penalties for moving and shooting. So if you had the finial, it wouldn't matter either way. And 4 inches range or just straight up ignore cover are incredible. So you could run your Barbican key on a unit that doesn't have that one heavy weapon, and then just play it on the range or ignore cover, and you would effectively get the same thing. So
you don't need to ignore the penalty, because this is the unit with the full rerolls to hit and wound, right?
right. Yeah. And they will also usually have take aim as well, but some people also order them for extra shots. A bit bizarre. And then we'll go on. He's got 30 Kassakin, which is bizarre as well. None of them are mechanized infantry, and he doesn't have a transport, which is another off-meta choice, I think. He's got 2 units of Scout Sentinels. Okay, that's fine. Three mortars, of course. Great. Now he's got 2 Lehman Russ. He's got Executional Plasma Cannon, of course, which is what you want to play. Then he's opted for the Las Cannon, which I think is, if you're trying to assault guard, if you're trying to get guard mirrors, then I think the Las Cannon is very good, of course. But then he's gone 2 Heavy Flamers, so maybe that's not the skew. And then he's got 1 unit of 1 Lehman Russ, who have lead sharpshooters, so re-roll a... Oh my word.
Yes, let's go. This is awesome.
So he's got the Lehman Russ with the Vanquisher Battle Cannon.
Yes, this is good tech.
I mean, you would have to think that this is a hedge towards guard, right? Because the Vanquisher Battle Cannon, guys, is basically like a hammerhead shot, right? It's one of those orients. And he's got the Veteran Commander upgrade, which he's paid for, which gives you a free hit and all wound reroll. So obviously that's really good into opposing Lehman Russes. And then he's got 2 more Lehman Russes with Plasma and Heavy Flamer. So let me do a recap really quick. 2 Tank Commanders is 2. And then he's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 7 Russes, and one's got a Vanquisher Battle Cannon. So here's the interesting thing. He could have dropped a unit of Kassakin, and played Ursula Creed, and swapped one of the tank commanders into just being a Lehman Russ. Because there's, apart from getting an order, there's functionally very little difference between a tank commander and a Lehman Russ. You just get access to an order. But they are bring it down and assassinate points for a tank commander. But I would rather have Ursula Creed there because you've got 30 Kassakin and you've got the heavy weapon squad as well, which is great. This list is very vulnerable to mortars itself because it has no transport and it's running 30 Kassakin on the board, which is, I think, yeah, it's an interesting list. I'm not convinced that this list actually beats the mirror list that's more well-rounded because it has an enormous footprint. And I'm not convinced that this list actually beats the Marine matchup because 30 Kassakin walking up the board with only access to Barbican Key to redeploy doesn't actually let you get them to actually see the important stuff because the Marines have a lot of screening these days as well. So it's an interesting choice. Sorry if I'm being overly critical.
I would say that I think this is an incredibly powerful list. But I wonder if a part of this is that obviously the Polish tournaments will all be played with WTC terrain.
Yeah.
And not on UKTC terrain. So it'll be very interesting to see how this list actually plays out on UKTC.
I will not accept the excuse, by the way, that this is practice for another tournament. That's just me. That's just me. And I know Puma doesn't think like that either, but these guys play on UKTC every once in a while. As probably as much as I play on WTC, which is like maybe the odd game a week. And they know that it's standardized terrain too. So I have to say that's when you could have the potential of playing just a very straight all-round guard list, it's an interesting one.
We'll see how it goes.
By the way, I'm not trying to bag on Michael at all. I'm really interested to see how it does because I've struggled through playing a list very similar to this, so it should be really interesting. Then we've got Patrick's list. Patrick is playing Genestealer Cult, which, well, we haven't even talked about yet. But
this list is terrifying.
The Genestealer Cult are really good. I think you can make the argument for a top 3 faction right now. Primarily because their scoring potential is enormous and the loss of AOC means that they hit very hard and they have a lot of bodies and it's a lot to chew through and a lot of people are not playing a high volume of shots. That being said, I do think they are, clearly mortars are a meta warping unit and mortars are particularly good into these guys. So are guard normally because you can deny a deep strike from 12 inches as well. But do you have much familiarity with Genestealer Cult, Vik?
I played like good Genestealer Cult players.
Yeah.
Like I played Innis, I played Malik, and I would say that when I played those guys, I had lists with huge volume of shots.
Swooping Hawks.
I had so many Swooping Hawks against Innis that it was really tough for him. But now, no, I don't have that volume anymore. I have D-cannons.
Yeah.
D-cannons are going to kill one acolyte.
So, guys, the list is he is playing Industrial Affinity, Accustomed to Toil, Alien Fury, War Convoy.
So let me ask you, Dave, are you going to tell me what those traits do?
No.
No, and I can't either, and this is the problem.
Yeah, so this is definitely a list we will have to look at and dissect. Primaris, we'll pass to one of our teammates, which is a very good access to have too. He's got 3 units of 5 Acolyte Hybrids. I'm assuming that Rod, holdback stuff. Then he's got 4 units of Neophyte Hybrids. So I do know what these do. Seismic Cannons have access to +1 damage. and they each have like a sub-trait that they can take. So perfect ambush, lying in wait, kind of come in closer and then jump back up. 4 flamers, 4 seismic cannons. Okay, the seismic cannons really have the damage there. And then he's got the Claromorph. I think we're all pretty familiar with him. A Sanctus with a Colt sniper rifle. Okay. 10 Gene Stealers. I know what they do. They infiltrate. And then he's got... which this unit obviously has a bit of a reputation. He's got 3 units of Atlan Jackals, so the classic 8 Atlan Jackals, and then 2 Wolf quad mortars, quad bikes. So these are the guys that resurrect and have the feel no pain and whatnot like that. So they are the kind of very hard to chew through, gum you up and everything. This is the part of the list that would worry me if I was playing guard, despite having access to flamers. However, Kasrkin do an absolute number on this list, I would assume, right?
They do. 100%. And I think, as long as you don't get Alpha Strike too hard, guard should be a really good counter for GSC. Interesting.
I've got 30 shots with my little Cadia squads. Come at me.
I'm denying Deep Strike. So
yeah, exactly. Powerful. But this list is an absolute terror. I think it's definitely one of the most optimal picks. I know Pumba said it was his first pick for teams.
Yeah, this
which goes to show
very strong.
Super well-rounded. Lovely list. Then we've got Thomas, who is playing Necrons. Now, this is, broadly speaking, guys, very similar list to Chris's,
yeah.
Most of them play Nihilic, which is, do you know off the top of your head, Vic?
This one is OBSEC and a little bit... it's OBSEC, not pre-game move.
Mm-hmm.
And they have something good.
Okay.
Some good stratagem.
Yeah. But this, I think most of the lists have gravitated towards this. Everyone that I've seen so far is playing Nihilic and no Silent King. So, interesting. Catacomb, Kamaran Barge, Chronomancer, Technomancer, your standard stuff. He's got 3 units of Tomb Blades, which I think is great pick at the moment. 3 units of Scarabs. Scorpion Destroyers.
No, it's not 3 units of Scarabs. This is the classic Poland thing. In the middle, between the 2 good units of Scarabs, there is 8 Triarch Praetorians.
How do people do that?
Classic.
And he's got Scorpic Destroyers, Locust, big block of Locust Destroyers.
Oh, Hexmark Destroyers are so good. These are little guys, when you deep strike or redeploy somewhere, they can come in from deep strike and shoot the unit that's redeploying.
What?
So they're so good now.
Oh, I'm going to have to look that up, man. Jeepers, and he's got the Night Scythe as well.
You've got to be so careful with your Kazakin here against these guys.
Okay, we'll talk afterwards. I need to hear this info.
Okay.
So, Necrons, and then to round it out, we've got Harlequins. Harlequins is an interesting choice because not a lot of people have taken them. Obviously, you've taken them in your list. But I think they are the strongest in the Aeldari mix. I think Light... Look, I was big on Light as well, but... I did just play against a good Harlequin player playing Light and absolutely rinsed him with my guard.
Was that rude?
No, it was Liam.
Okay, fair. Liam, oh gosh, yeah, wow, brilliant player. So this guy, I heard about him in some podcast. This was the podcast you were on.
Yeah, this is Victor.
Yeah, this guy apparently wins everything. He's an amazing player, unbeatable. And he's a prospect for Team Poland. So
awesome, yeah. So it'll be great to see how he does.
Best of luck for him.
So we've got 2 Shadow Seers, Troop Master. We've got 9 units of troop, 6 bikes, 2 DJs, 2 Skyweavers. This is not Liam's list, but very close to what Liam was also playing when I played against him. These lists are very powerful, but they do die a lot quicker. And if you've got the ability, i.e. if you've got mortars, you can kill boats and then kill what's in them 100% reliably, which is a huge thing to worry about for Harlequins, especially because you also ignore hit modifiers on your mortars and their strength 6. So imagine playing a 90-point troop and then a 95-point Starweaver, it getting popped by a Lehman Russ and then mortars killing whatever inside it, 100% from safe. It's really tough to deal with. But it is very fast, does have a lot of damage, has great secondaries as well. So yeah. I'm interested to see how Harlequins do as well myself.
For sure. Yeah, and that covers Team Poland. I mean, I think these are the 2 titans of this tournament, Team England and Team Poland. And my money is on Team Poland. They've got slightly better faction choices and lists in there.
Yep.
Especially just not having guard in the Team England list, I think just brings it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But both teams very strong.
What I want to see is this Vanquisher battle cannon against the Hecaton land fortress.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. It ignores invulns.
Damage 0. Yeah, it ignores invulns, but you can damage 0, right? But this list would do very well into Votan for sure. I think, because you can't really hide 18 bikes and 3 land fortresses, realistically speaking. Yeah.
Do you want to just do, like, because we're obviously running into time here, let's just briefly run through our other 2 choices?
Yeah, you go first. I've been talking too much this episode, I feel.
Well, I want to do Team Netherlands because I think this is a really cool group of guys. I love Dino, and Dino's in this team playing Iron Hands, standard Iron Hands list. And then we've got Rude. Rude is a very good Harlequins player, and he's the team captain. And again, is this light? Yeah, this is light. So this is very similar. We have, very, very similar. So this is 6 Star Weavers as well, and the rest surplus troops, very similar to the Poland list. We've got Dick with Grey Knights, and I love seeing this here. Grey Knights got a nice buff in Arcs of Omen by getting a better secondary in Teleport Assault, which actually really opens them up to being a good army to just play the game and score points.
Yeah, good for teams. Like, let's say your opponent's playing GSC. You've got Grey Knights, like, a lot of shots, right?
For sure, yeah, and it would be a great counter for that. I mean, they're susceptible in singles to just hitting a bad matchup at the top of the meta, but across the team tournament, I think Grey Knights are not a bad choice, and, you know, he's got a very well-designed list. 3 units of 4 servitors is a lot of servitors, but the servitors are good. And then we've got Chris Clayton on Chaos Demons. Let's see what kind of Chaos Demon. This is a Tzeentch list. So again, like Alex Harrison, he's gone very, very similar list, but Alex Harrison has no troops, whereas this guy has 3 units of 10 pink horrors in the list. And then finally, they've got a Leagues of Votan list as well. Let's see if this is not... this is the European thing. So what we're finding is in the UK and America, everyone is playing Ymir, which is the plus extra range, the mortal wounds for beams, and the 4-up invuln. And in Europe, they're finding a lot of success with Great Arthurian League. This is the Uthar's League, basically.
Yes,
Yeah, and this allows you to use Uthar, who lets you change a dice to a 6.
With the magma rail, right?
Yeah, if you use the heavy magma rail cannons on the Hecaton land fortresses, you can really push through some big mortal wound hits. And this list is built on 2 units of Hecaton land fortresses, 3 units of bikes, 2 big ones and 1 small unit, and you've got 3 units of berserks as well, which is a little bit of a difference. So the berserks, 1 massive unit, and then 2 kind of smaller units in there, which go inside the land fortresses. So very cool list. One-dimensional as these lists often are, and it'll be interesting to see if the Great Arthurian League does better than Ymir.
Yeah. Who will remain on top? Great Arthurian League, hopefully. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. I think we've got everything to play for and nothing to lose, which is it's actually, to be honest with you, the funnest spot to play Warhammer in.
And you are going to go through my favorite team in UK, actually, in my opinion. I love these guys. They're so nice.
Yeah, Warmasters are an absolutely great team. Wait, you were talking about Warmasters, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I wanted to check out 2 lists. Guillem is playing our old favorite, the old Tzeentch and Thousand Suns. He's got a detachment.
Oh, no Tzeentch? Is there Tzeentch in here?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so he's actually got 2 units of Screamers, 1 unit of Blue Horrors, and a Change Caster for the Bolt of Change, which is interesting. It's kind of like the minimum amount you would play, and Screamers are kind of like a little bit, they got cheaper, so the combat is not that bad. And then he's got the usual Araman Exalted Sorcerer and Infernal Master, exactly what we used to play. And then he's got Rubric Marines. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Soul Reaper Cannons, like we used to play. Oh, he's got 1 unit of Warp Flamers, okay, and the rest of Soul Reaper Cannons, love it. The big unit of Terminators, and then what about this bad boy? He's got the Mutalith Vortex Beast. Come at me, bro.
Me?
No. Guillem is playing the Mutalith Vortex Beast.
Oh, I thought you were asking me what the rules are, because I was going to be stuck on that one.
Yeah, I know. I know it's got some kind of stratagem, but it does look very cool in real life as well. So
130 points sounds okay as well.
It's not that bad, right? Yeah. And then we've got, I think this is Jamie's list. He is playing, let me just, I'm pretty sure this is Jamie's list. Imperial Guard. And he's bringing the old Doomhammer. He's not messing around. He wants to put his 500-point tank on the board. This, as you can imagine, this thing is enormous. Like, I think it's greater than 6 inches wide and deep, so you can't actually outflank it unless it's in your deployment zone, and still shoot the turn it comes in. This thing is absolutely massive. One thing that I did think was quite cool with this is that it's open topped and you can fit 20 infantry in on it, so you can put your Kasachin in it, and it's got 30 wounds at like T9 2-up save, so it's kind of funny. I like it. But other than that, it's pretty standard. He's gone with the 2 tank commanders as well, which is interesting. I think I'm the only one basically not playing any tank commanders. He's got a few KD shock troops, and then some scout sentinels and their triple mortars like you would always expect. I think out of the 2 lists we looked at today, I was also the only one playing Ursula Creed as well. So
very
interesting little takeaway. It's going to be. I'm really interested to see how the Guard lists kind of shape up. Obviously, this is a team environment, so it's a little bit different. But Guard they're not as easy to solve as I think a lot of people think, and they're kind of unforgiving in a lot of spots, and they definitely have their flaws as well. I don't think they're as powerful as a lot of people kind of were fearing because of the Kasachin bomb and whatnot like that.
For sure. I mean, they look better on paper than they necessarily are in game.
Yep.
Not saying that they're not incredibly strong, because I think they are very, very strong, but they definitely have weaknesses which are not obvious until you play against them.
Yeah, exactly. Very slow moving, undynamic for a large part of it. But they do kind of blanket some armies, which in the team tournament is really good. They are very powerful against deep striking armies. They've got the strength 6 mortars and et cetera, et cetera. So they cover a lot of bases as well.
So, Dave, where do you think Team Dice Down is going to end up in this tournament?
Look, I think we've got some potential to knock. We've got potential, I think, to knock any of the top 2 teams out, Team England and Poland, especially if we hit them on Mission 3. Mission 3 is Corners Mission, which the map has changed, and it is extremely dense. And I think we've got 3 lists, I think, there, which love to play on that board. I think our World Eaters, Trakari, and yourself love that board. So I think if anything, if we can hit people on that, that'll be good. We've got a bit more melee orientated lists than I think most people have, right? So it'll be good. I think comfortable 3rd place, 4-1. Playing for 5-0, I think that'll be perfectly happy.
I think that's accurate. We, I think we have every chance to go 4-1 here, and there is a small chance that we might upset one of the big teams and go 5-0. There is a chance.
Yeah. There we go. We're going to put Jim Bessie under the bus, but he's going to carry us the whole way.
He's going to carry us with 20 O's under the bus. Easy.
Sounds good. And that's been the episode for today, guys. If you aren't subscribed, or if you maybe haven't left a rating before on Spotify, I think it does help us to some degree. Look, I'm not hugely massive on following it or whatever like that, gaming the algorithm, as they say. But if you do that, that's cool. If there's any kind of content that you want us to cover, just let us know. And we said in the previous episode that's going to drop tonight, if you want us to do a bit of a round table on Saturday night with our team, it'll be like a super kind of live and uncut version that we might just release on Spotify, because I think I can just directly record it there and do it. So if that's something you're interested in, then let us know and we'll go ahead and do it. But we do like to keep things a bit nicely polished and designed around here, so we'll have to make a decision on that one.
Amazing. And thank you guys for listening up to this point, and that is the end of the episode, and we look forward to seeing you again by the fireside.
Nice. Let's catch you guys then. Thank you for listening to the 40k Fireside podcast. Vik and I hope you've enjoyed listening, and we greatly appreciate any feedback that you can provide after the show.